On the rule of law, I think you need to give us time to reflect on the exact nature of the provisions. We are very satisfied with the fact that there is a provision on this, as you mentioned, Article A24. We believe that this is extremely important. We are very happy with the fact that it mentions in the same paragraph, indeed, in two subsequent sentences, the fact that it is important to protect the EU's financial interests, and that it underlines the importance of the respect of the rule of law. This is the starting basis. We will reflect now on the steps forward on this in the coming days. On your second, or on your first question rather, related to the cut in the health program, of course, we regret indeed that our very ambitious proposal was not followed entirely, but we are of course very happy that the European Council recognized the need for a new program on health, EU for Health, as it is called. We had nothing prior to this European Council. Now we will have a program devoted to helping the European Union tackle health crises. It will have indeed, according to European Council proposals, a total amount of 1.7 billion. It's a good starting point. Obviously, it is clear that we would have liked more, but we need to remember that it's better to start, even if you start a bit small, than not to start at all. And this is the result of the European Council that we want to focus on. I now move to, well, let's see, are there other questions related to to yesterday's European Council conclusions on the MFF and Next Generation EU? Please only keep your hand raised if this is the case. Okay, I see Angelina. Go ahead, Angelina.
Go ahead.
Please press speak. Okay. Okay. Is it working? Is it working? You can talk. You need to press speak. You need to press speak. All right. It doesn't seem to be working. We will move on. We move to Francesco. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
No, just as a follow-up on the cuts on the health budget, I just was wondering whether those cuts involve also the two EU health agencies, the EMA and the ECDC. Will they get less money compared to what they get now, or not? Thanks.
The amount I was referring to is specifically the amount for the EU for Health program. So on the other very detailed figures that are included in the MFF nego box that was agreed, or rather the agreement of the European Council, not the nego box, but the agreement, we will have all, I think, to analyze the figures in detail, and Stéphane will look into this with Balázs and come back to you on that. Okay, we need to keep in mind, and I hope for your understanding on this, that obviously yesterday yesterday and the days before, the European Council focused on the big ticket issues, on the big numbers. This is what we have here at the top of our minds. There is obviously a lot of detailed information that will come at a later stage, and on which we'll be happy to interact with you. And indeed, I think that is what I'm going to answer to you, Vince, on your question, but go ahead.
I fear that could be the case. My question is about the fact that the Commission proposed 15.5 billion in spending outside the EU as part of this recovery package, and all of that was cut. So I'm wondering, how it is that the Commission can say something's possible and then the Council lawyers can say it's not possible. I mean, why didn't you check with the Council first before proposing this? And what kind of message that sends to the rest of the world when a recovery package ends up being solely focused on the EU rather than developing partners in Africa, etc.? Thanks.
Well, I would beg to differ on that last assertion that you make, because if you look at the heading related to neighborhood in the world, heading 6 of the next multi-annual financial framework, you will see that it has an amount of 98.4 billion approximately foreseen, which is actually higher than the amount which is currently in the MFF if you look at the EU27. So it is definitely not the case, or rather it is definitely the case that we do very much grant a lot of importance to our cooperation with the rest of the world and to the programs that support this. On your very specific question, we will come back. We also need to understand it better, so I will ask Balázs to get in touch with you bilaterally. But let me remind you that the Commission makes a certain number of proposals, but of course it is for the European Council ultimately to decide what it is that it finds positive and wants to integrate into its agreements. Our role is to make ambitious proposals that we think correspond to the EU's interest, and the European Council then obviously sometimes has to make some tough choices. Naomi, we move to you.
Taking my question, Naomi O'Leary, Irish Times. I was just wondering, Eric, if you could please walk us through the next steps, given that the EPP and Greens want very strongly changes, particularly to the MFF and increases to things like research funding. If that demand is made in the European Parliament, what do you see being the next steps in terms of that having to come back to be agreed again by the Council and so on, and what kind of a timeline could we be looking at? Thank you very much.
Yes, I will pass the floor to Balázs on these procedural questions.
Hello, good afternoon. Right, so let's try to shed a bit of a light on this package, which is in fact quite complex and has many different components, each of which will follow a different legislative procedure. Now, starting with the MFF regulation as such, it will require the consent of the European Parliament by an absolute majority of the members, and it will also have to be approved formally by the Council itself via unanimity. Now, another important component of the package is the so-called own resource decision, which again will require a unanimous agreement in the Council. It will require the opinion of the European Parliament, and it will also have to be ratified by each member state, following, of course, the constitutional requirements at the national level. And of course, we also have the so-called sectoral proposals, the sectoral legislation, which typically will be adopted according to the ordinary decision-making procedure. In some cases, however, only by the Council, but in most of the cases, it will involve the Council and the Parliament. And if I may, the last important element that I should point out is the next generation EU regulation, which will be adopted by qualified majority by the Council, and the Parliament will be informed by the President of the Council.
Thank you very much, Balázs. Okay, I have a question from Katalin Helmay. Katalin, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Eric. It's a technical question about the rule of law. I couldn't take part in the technical briefing, so if this question was raised, sorry for that. The first is the conclusion says that the Commission will propose measures in case of breaches for adoption by the Council, etc. What measures we are talking about? We have a draft regulation proposed by the Commission two years ago. This is what the conclusions refer to, where the Commission is is expected to come up with something new. And the second technical question is, the conclusions also say that the European Council will revert rapidly to the matter. What role will the European Council play in this matter? It will have a discussion, a general discussion on the rule of law, conditionality. It will have a discussion on the specific measures the Commission is expected to propose. So if you would clarify this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katalin, but I'm afraid I can't go further than what I have said previously. We have indeed a new set of conclusions from the European Council related to the rule of law, which open up a certain number of options, possibilities in terms of the next steps to be taken in the process. And the Commission is now looking at these options in order to decide what is the best way forward. And this is the stage we are at the moment. We cannot say more on this for the moment. Reiterating that we are very happy that the rule of law provision related to the protection of the EU's financial interests is in the conclusions. This is the important thing for us. It's the starting basis that we needed, and now we will move forward on that basis, and we will inform you of further developments when they take place. Are there any other questions for us today on this?